We talk every single day, right? But have you ever stopped to think about how truly bizarre and mysterious that is? How we do it? Well, today we're diving deep into the architecture of our own minds to figure out how language is even possible. Welcome to The Explainer. So let's start with this puzzle, one that's fascinated people for, well, forever. Think about it. A little kid can master an unbelievably complex grammatical system, and they do it by listening to the messy, incomplete, sometimes totally ungrammatical stuff we say to them. How on earth is that possible? The key, it turns out, lies in the revolutionary ideas of the linguist Noam Chomsky. To even begin to solve this puzzle, Chomsky said we need a completely radical shift in how we think. He argued that we have to stop seeing language as just another skill we learn, like riding a bike or playing the piano. We need to start seeing it as a fundamental part of our biology. He actually called our language ability a mental organ, a super specialized, intricate system right there inside the brain. I mean, think about it. We don't see our bodies as just one big blob, right? We have a circulatory system, a digestive system, all these distinct parts doing their jobs. Chomsky basically asked, why should our brain be any different? Okay, so if language is a mental organ, that has a pretty huge implication. It totally flips the script on how we think about picking up a language in the first place. And this quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. Getting a language isn't something a child does. It's something that happens to them. It just grows, guided by this internal biological program. It's a lot like how we grow arms instead of wings, or how our bodies just know to go through puberty. It's a predetermined biological process, not a conscious effort. So, all right, if language just grows based on some biological program, what does that program even look like? What's the genetic blueprint that's guiding all of this? This question brings us right to the core concept of Chomsky's entire theory. He calls this blueprint universal grammar, and the best way to think about it is like an innate operating system for language that every single human is born with. Now, this isn't a specific grammar for, say, English or Japanese. It's much deeper. It's an abstract set of rules and principles that defines the boundaries for every possible human language. So how does this operating system work? Well, universal grammar isn't some rigid rulebook for just one language. A better analogy is to think of it like a really complex electrical switchboard. The fundamental wiring, the core principles of all language, that's fixed. It's universal. But the board also has a whole bunch of switches that can be flipped into different positions. And these switches, which linguists call parameters, are the absolute key to everything. They're what create this incredible diversity of languages we see all over the world. Even though the basic wiring is the same for all of us, the settings on these switches are not. Let's look at one of the most famous of these switches. It's called the head parameter, and it basically controls the fundamental word order of an entire language. As a little kid just listens to people talking around them, their brain is unconsciously analyzing what it hears, and that data is enough to tell it which way to flip this one crucial switch, either to a head first setting or a head last setting. The consequences of flipping this one little switch are absolutely massive. In English, for example, that switch is set to first, so the head of the phrase, like the verb eats, comes before its object, an apple. But in Japanese, that same switch is set to last, creating a perfect mirror image. The object, ringo o, comes before the verb, taberu, and you see the same pattern everywhere. English has prepositions like of poetry, while Japanese has postpositions, which come after the noun. Just one switch creates two totally different sentence structures. It's amazing. So here's the really crucial takeaway from all this. The thousands of languages spoken around the world aren't infinitely different. They're not just arbitrary collections of sounds. They all follow a much deeper hidden logic. What this really means is that all human languages are just variations on a single theme. They're all built from the exact same universal toolkit. The blueprint is identical for every one of us. The final language just looks different because a handful of switches got flipped one way instead of another during that critical period of development in childhood. So that brings up a really good question. Can you change these switches later in life? Well, according to the theory, not really. You see, setting those switches is part of biological growth, like getting taller. Once that developmental window closes, trying to learn a second language becomes a fundamentally different process. It's a conscious, intellectual task of learning, using different parts of your brain instead of that effortless, innate growth that built your very first language. In the end, universal grammar is about so much more than just words and sentences. It suggests that underneath all the stunning diversity of human cultures and expression, there's this profound shared cognitive unity. Our languages may sound completely different, but the mental blueprint our brains use to build them is fundamentally, and I think wonderfully, the same.